Hi, I'm Kishwar, and I'm really excited to be here with you all virtually. Today, I'm going to read to you my recipe for a beautiful mind. So, most of you know me from my time at MasterChef Australia, but before I became known for bringing my heritage cuisine to this global platform, I was a mother, a business owner, a teacher, a designer, and I donned many hats before I earned my chef's whites. I've had the great privilege of being on a platform that reaches millions of people around the world, and it's given me a voice and a place to speak and cook and show the world the amazing cultures and cuisines that still remain largely untapped. But before all of this, I was the same Kishwa. My life was about food and family and my friends, my passions, career, travel. With or without this fame, I had created a world that was full of things that enriched and energized me. So today, I want to share with you 3 ingredients for a beautiful mind that led me to have this beautiful life. My very first ingredient is commitment and consistency. One of my early memories was cooking with my very large, busy family. My parents were very much at the heart of the Bengali community here in Melbourne, and our home was a centre point for the fellow migrant families of the 70s and 80s looking to build a piece of home in this faraway land. They recreated all the gatherings, the functions, festivals that they were used to from back home. This included celebrating the Bengali New Year, International Mother Language Day, Eid, Pujo, community picnics, and everything in between. Behind all the hustle and bustle and months of planning that went into these events, I remember most clearly the teamwork it took to prepare the food. Back in the 80s, these events weren't catered. The community would band together and make all the food themselves, and the food was elaborate because us Bengalis, we love to eat. From pitas and various mishtis to dekchis of birani and tehari, every occasion had its own menu, and the food was such an important part of making these occasions come to life. So, as one of my earliest lessons, I would sit under the watchful eye of my mum, grandma, or an aunt, and with my sisters and friends, we would roll and shape and peel and dice all the food that needed to be prepared. At first, it was an extreme privilege to be part of the conveyor belt of food production. Just being a small cog in this well-oiled machine that was churning out delicious delicacies was such an honor for a 5-year-old. I rolled my best parotas, stamped every shondesh with a little flower stamp, and stuffed every dal puri with so much conviction. After all, I was helping make real food that was going to be enjoyed by my peers. I won't lie, I also enjoyed the praise that came along with being told how beautifully I folded momos or how amazing my knife skills were considering my age. Looking back, it may have been a dangling carrot used to use us as child labor. But nonetheless, it was that early on that I learned to tune into the rhythms and the beats of the kitchen, disappearing inside my own mind, rolling hundreds of balls of sweets, or stuffing hundreds of pastry sheets of perfect samosas. Although I didn't know it, it was a form of meditation and mindfulness that was building up a strong mind. Now, to be entirely truthful, that accolade was wearing very thin by the time I was 12 or 13. Peeling 25-kilo bags of onions, dicing kilos of cucumbers for raita, that too unpaid, was not really gelling with my preteen social calendar. Most kids my age were getting paid to unload the dishwasher or were allowed to deliver newspapers for pocket money. The time I spent helping my parents, being a part of the community events, took up all of my free time. I questioned how it benefited me to work for hours when I could be riding my bike or watching television. But my parents, like most Asian migrant parents, let my preteen protests slip in one ear and straight out the other. Even when I mumbled and grumbled, I still had to plug in and feel my duty. Quitting was never an option in my house. Whether it was piano or sports, classical Bengali singing, we were just not allowed to leave something halfway. We were taught to follow through till the end. This attitude was embedded in me and shaped my mind at a very early age. It served me well when running for MasterChef. In a cook-along episode with Curtis Stone, I was watching and following the renowned chef on the screen and cut straight into my finger. The knife was so sharp, it split my nail in half and it cut through the nail bed underneath. I was in excruciating pain. There was a trail of blood from my bench to the sink. The nurse on set, Libby, had blood on her clothes, her glasses, like it was absolutely everywhere. But though I had totally severed my finger, all I was concerned about was completing the challenge. I was firmly focused on making up for lost time and finishing what I had started. When it was time for tasting, one of the judges, Andy Allen, said to me, "We never associate Kishwar with game over." And I utilized that as my superpower, never giving up, right until the end, no matter what challenge the MasterChef gods threw at us, cooking in the Australian desert, 6-hour pressure tests, no matter how tough the challenges got, I grew tougher and I had one singular vision, to see it through till the end. The years of monotonous food prep ultimately taught me the virtue of commitment and consistency. And I can proudly say I never got eliminated from one of the toughest cooking competitions in the world. I saw it through till the end. My second ingredient is the willingness to learn and explore. To me, living with a sense of adventure and bewilderment is possibly the greatest secret to a beautiful mind. When we were younger, it's easy to stretch our minds and have this limitless imagination. It's this very exercise of dreaming big that sets off a chain reaction of us chasing those dreams. You could want to be an astronaut, and that singular dream might drive you to study engineering or astrophysics. Now, only a handful of people actually leave this planet and can say that they've been to space. But that very dreaming in our childhood leads to engineering students, much like yourselves, following your own unique pathways. This segment isn't about how we came to be here. It's more that we are here because of an initial thought or spark in us from years before this moment, maybe in our childhood or a few years ago when you were all sitting your board high school exams. Somewhere something pinned a dream in you and it sparked a little seed and a plant that grew to the point where you're all sitting here now. We are all here because of that thought seed that was planted a long time ago. It's the power of dreaming that we lose as we get older. Life gets in the way as we tread deeper and deeper into adulthood and develop a film of practicality about our lives. But in that life, we have the ability to take up new things like a musical instrument or learning a new sport. Before the MasterChef whirlwind, I explored things that constantly challenged my mind. I learned to play chess as an adult, and then I beat my husband, who actually taught me. But after having my second child, I took up fencing and trained until the global pandemic hit. At various stages of my life, I obsessed over different cooking skills, like creating the perfect puff or choux pastry, milling my own flour to make bread, pickling, fermenting, smoking, harvesting seeds to plant. All these little explorations, the sense of bewilderment and accomplishment when my avocado seed cracked open and begins to sprout. Yes, like it sounds quite minuscule and possibly boring to some of you, but all these little explorations built me up and helped me when I was ultimately put to test in front of a global audience. Constantly challenging myself, exploring the things around me, finding bewilderment in the little things all shaped my mind to be able to take on the big dreams. Now, my third and last ingredient is to have a mind without prejudice. In my recipe for a beautiful mind, it's to develop that mind without prejudice. A question I find myself answering a lot is, despite being born in Australia, how do you hold on to your culture? I always wonder why most reporters are shocked that people outside their motherland want to preserve their heritage. Well, first of all, they should know how many times I've played the messenger in Tasher Desh or danced to Eshu He Boishak, welcoming in the new year at Poila Boishak functions. It's natural for communities to celebrate their traditions as a whole and conserve a sense of their identity. So I became a product of third culture, being raised in the 80s and 90s in suburban Australia by South Asian migrants. This, as you can imagine, was like being raised with all the invisible rules and regulations and rituals and elements we all understand and adhere to in our culture, but without the rest of my friends at school having to follow the same guidelines. To me, it seemed like my friends were privy to wear what they wanted, do what they wanted, and most importantly, be what they wanted. Growing up, if you told me I was going to be wearing chef's whites and be in a professional kitchen at the age of almost 40, let alone cooking heritage Bengali dishes on national, well, like international television, I wouldn't have been able to imagine it. I didn't even see someone like myself from my background on mainstream media until now. If I hadn't stepped out of my comfort zone and put myself in this public space, it may have been years till my kids saw someone like themselves eating bhorta and lao chingri and just normalizing our existence. Initially, it did come to a shock to my parents that I was going to leave my kids, leave my work, live away from home, but most importantly, be on a public platform like television. My parents knew I was a good cook, but their thinking was that I already had such a fantastic life. Why would I want to shake it all up? The truth was, I feel like this was my calling, and it was extremely important and integral to my core to do this for my kids. Something aligned in the universe to make this journey happen. And it was the place that taught me so much about my own capabilities as a person. It fortified my identity and self-belief and gave me a newfound purpose to bring Bengali cuisine and make Bengali cuisine as part of the Australian and possibly the global food tapestry. By being free of prejudice and keeping a really open mind, I was able to grow so much as a person, and I stretched my mind further than I've ever done before. And accepting it also helped me accept what the universe had to offer me. What we consider our hobbies and passions could be where we unlock a piece of ourselves. And by tapping into that power, we could inspire millions. I hope you take a few key ingredients for my recipe to a beautiful mind and cook something up with it yourself. Thank you very much.